I'm lost in Atlantic City. You see, I'm trying to look for directions. Right. I guess there's no free parking here. Look, you got a sandwich? The Hunger Games.
Kensil Culture, puppets, props, puns, podcasts.
Gentlemen, welcome back to Kensil Culture, the pop culture magazine. And sitting beside me is the big man himself. Let's have a nice hand for Mr. John Redshirt Kensil.
Hey, people. Speaking of red shirts, I'm John Kensil here. This is Legendary Wid. This is Kensil Culture. I read something interesting about the people who developed Monopoly.
Yeah?
It was designed by a guy who was anti-capitalist. Somebody used to say that this game was to show you to be greedy and buy and buy and buy, and right? But here it was initially to show badness of capitalism.
It was based on a Quaker game, okay, where it was like snakes and ladders,
yes,
and things like that. And it was the Quakers. They used to come down to Atlantic City and spend and that's where he spent it. It was during the Depression that he made this. And he made it in Philadelphia out of like linoleum.
Right.
Okay. Like a thing. They didn't have this. I'm sorry. They didn't have this sort of thing. But, and when we leave, I'm going to say, hey, we got to go. But we're past that right now.
But
I actually saw a bunch of, they had a bunch of different Monopoly games through the years at a antique show that I went to in Atlantic City.
They have Seinfeld Monopoly. They have other themes. They have Morgani Monopoly and all famous ones. It's pretty neat, like fads. Very fun. Now, Wid, speaking of Atlantic City and Monopoly, you've seen the Beach Boys in Atlantic City before.
The greatest concert that I ever went to, and this is like, I'm going to have to say it was the greatest concert I ever went to, was on the beach of Atlantic City to see the Beach Boys when they, after they played their historic Washington, D.C., where, a million people showed up.
Yes.
So it was right on the beach. They were playing, and they played for like 2 hours. They played all their hits, but you could. They had like a little set up beer garden, and you could be in a drink in the beer garden. You can jump in the ocean. How apropos! And you want to listen to the Beach Boys and be on the frickin' beach and be able to go swimming.
And you went
Bob Aran.
And you went swimming because you could tinkle.
Yes, and you didn't have to. You could go right in the ocean
because the beach in Atlantic City isn't really that big.
And they were so friendly. I mean, even the ocean waved. Sorry. No, but that was the single greatest concert that I've ever went to.
Now, Wid loves being a snappy dresser on stage. Wid used to have a really cool blue jacket, like the mayor in Jaws, but with little anchors, but it had the Chevrolet emblem on it. Well, Wid ran backstage and said, "I love you. Take my jacket."
It was a salesman's jacket, and it had Chevrolet all over it. And if they're not into the beach at night, the Beach Boys are into cars, okay? And,
surfing hot rods.
Yeah, surfing hot rods, and all that Southern California culture. So I thought how wonderful it is, because this was the first time that they played the entire album, okay, of Pet Sounds. Okay, and I saw it at the Mann Music Center here in Philadelphia, and a beautiful setting and everything. And I didn't have to pay for a ticket. As soon as I walked in, it was like by an angel. A guy gave me a ticket and a backstage pass.
They probably thought you were their dealer.
Well, no, I didn't have. I guess I did have the jacket on, so I think he complimented me. But I went backstage, and I had tears in my eyes. I couldn't believe that I was hearing Brian Wilson playing Pet Sounds. Okay, a very big part of my life.
I've went online to try and find any. There's pictures of you wearing that jacket. You used on one of those videos I saw on your TV specials or something.
Oh yeah.
I can't find that jacket anywhere. That must have been like custom made for salesmen. Like I look all over because if you type in Chevrolet jacket, it's like a racing jacket.
And it had that cool little like emblem that Chevrolet had, like the like sort of a badge or a bow tie or something like that.
I had mentioned earlier though, because I'm filled with chronic hate about the dark side of celebrity and stuff like that.
Oh, and the Beach Boys have the darkest side.
Oh my God!
Okay?
For
Drugs,
oh my
women,
God, fighting
incest,
and divorces and
devil worship.
What I thought was interesting, though, yeah, right, Charles Manson,
yeah,
right. What I thought was interesting was, because on the last episode of our Cancel Culture, we talked about Pete Best from the Beatles, all right, being canned from the band because he was only an adequate drummer. Well, when the Beach Boys started, Brian Wilson and his dad saw
Murray the plumber.
He saw that they had potential as musicians, right? And he goes, all right, and he helped them organize their band. And he said, but your brother, Dennis Wilson, Brian Wilson's brother, should be in the band. Well, this guy never picked up a drum in his life or a guitar or bass or anything, right? And just like we said earlier, Dennis Wilson was in a band led by his big brother and managed by his father. So when Mike Love and Brian Wilson put the band together, known as the Beach Boys, they knew Dennis would be part of the band somehow. And plus, he was the only one who actually surfed.
Yep.
Right.
Dennis was actually out there. Yeah. And, and can I tell you, he was probably the handsomest.
Yeah. Well, oh, yeah.
And kind of on the wild side. So that
right.
Really.
Exactly right. Well, it said Dennis couldn't play an instrument and he wasn't really a singer, right? But Brian said he's going to be the drummer because he thought it was the least necessary part of the band. Because their songs are all harmonies and vocals and catchy guitar riffs.
From the four freshmen,
right?
His father, Murray, turned him on to that.
And when we were saying earlier about adequate drumming, it said Dennis Wilson was a serviceable drummer, meaning he just played 4/4 time. It says he's very similar to Pete Best, not stylistic, but average at best. But fate just took the drummers in different directions. It said the Beatles wouldn't have taken Dennis Wilson, right? But it's very interesting about he used the band's fame to drugs, alcohol, ladies, Charles Manson,
and Dennis was he was kind of troubled. I mean, alcohol and drugs and led to his demise also.
Yeah.
And he had some he was into the ladies, okay? And Charles Manson set him up with some of his followers, and they moved into Dennis's house.
Yeah.
And everybody got, everybody warned him against, hey, don't let Dennis Wilson, don't let Chucky Manson, get into your finances or your borrow. But he moved in, and
they wouldn't move out. Then they had to try to get rid of him. I think
he sold the house to get rid of him.
Yeah, he wants something really far. And he said, Mickey Dolenz had to learn how to play drums for the Monkees, and he became a good drummer. Not the greatest one in the world, but on a lot of the Beach Boys recordings, it was Hal Blaine from the Wrecking Crew. I forgot what it was. Dennis Wilson dated somebody famous. When he died, he drowned. They found him floating in the ocean.
What he was doing is that he was throwing off a backyard dock. He was throwing a lawn chair.
That's right.
And then it would go and sink down, and then he would go and retrieve the lawn chair. It's something you do when you're playing around, and cut the boredom of swimming sometimes. And when he threw it down and he was bringing it back up, and he hit his head, you know how the buoyancy goes, and he hit his head on the bottom of the dock.
Oh, I know who it was.
And that's how he...
I know who it was, who he was in relationship with, right? And you'll never guess.
Candice Bergen?
No, I would have thought that too. Kristen McVie from Fleetwood Mac. after Rumors, and she broke up with the lighting guy from Fleetwood Mac. She dated him, and she was in the relationship when he made himself drowned. I just thought that was interesting.
Was she? I don't know any of her backstory.
She was really talented.
Was she a wild one or
no? And if you ever actually listen to the Fleetwood Mac records, she wrote like stylistically the most intricate. She wrote the best songs for them. With Stevie Nicks because she was pretty and had the catchy riffs and stuff like that. But I never knew Kristen McVie from Fleetwood Mac was Dennis Wilson. She was dating him when he died.
It's all nepotism. They're all nepo babies. But no, I kind of like that when when movie stars find each other.
Oh yes.
There's nothing as egotistical. As and when they look alike, I like that too. And,
Now we mentioned Pete Best earlier, right? There's Pete Best right here in this picture. Looks like
I did. I saw that
right?
picture. He looks like.
So
he looks like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, he does. Burt Reynolds or Alex Trebek when he was younger with the mustache.
And here's
look at that.
Here's a Burt Reynolds record right here. It's not on deck. It's on a.
Is it really Burt Reynolds?
It's Burt Reynolds record. It says "Till I Get It Right." Okay.
Oh man.
Did anybody write that we know? No.
That's interesting.
Bobby Goldsboro wrote it.
Who's still alive?
And a room for a boy never used. A room for a boy never used.
Too many words in that song. All right. Well, they interviewed. It's a cycle. The Beach Boys and Beatles. Right. Pete Best said, "If I was such a terrible drummer, why did you guys keep me around for 2 years?" And John Lennon said, "Because your mother made the best meat pies." And then he said, "Why did they keep me for recording sessions with Tony Sheridan?" And he said, "Because you had sheep's livers stuffed with chocolate." Why did they keep me for my audition with Decca? They knew how important that moment was and easily could have replaced me at any time before that. They drug him on for 2 years. Why did guys have me play drums for multiple hours a night in Hamburg trying to get me till they got a record contract, the Beatles? Truth is, I wasn't a bad drummer at all. Me drumming was actually very good, he said. When I found out they replaced me with Ringo, I was shocked because I always felt I was the better drummer. Hold on a second. He has to get back to work. Do you want fries with that? But I just thought that was interesting.
And it is sort of like pulling the rug out of it, but that's the dynamics of a group. I've been in groups and where it's up and down and it's egos and it's a lot of time it's egos or love life. Okay, and that's what happens to a lot of different groups. When I worked at the power station, that's what would happen. Somebody, it's money, or somebody thinks they bring in a relative or something, but it's almost a classic dynamic is that people don't always fit together.
Exactly, stuff happens like a bad marriage. The Beatles, when they played in Hamburg, was at the Cavern Club. The other club his mom owned was called the Casbah.
The Casbah, exactly.
Right. And there was also a famous comedy club in Wildwood, New Jersey called the Casbah.
Yeah.
That a lot of famous people went through. And Wid and I had the distinction of being the last show there.
I was the first show there, too.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of weird, ain't it?
And was you did comedy it was like the Beatles in the Cavern Club.
And Wildwood.
7 nights a week.
Which Wildwood, New Jersey, okay, beautiful by the sea, the biggest beach in the world, okay, it's a quarter of a mile from the, boardwalk to the, a half a mile from the boardwalk to the ocean head. But actually, I saw the Beach Boys twice in Wildwood, New Jersey, and they played on the beach, okay? Oh. It wasn't... It was exciting and it was fun and it was great and everything, but it wasn't as exciting as seeing them for the first time on the beaches of Atlantic City.
I think your boy Mike Love, right? Mike Love. Right. I think he finally bought the rights to the Beach Boys. Like he performs as the Beach Boys now. Al Jardine's still alive, and so is the other guy. But when I went to Chiller Theater last year, they were there. Beach Boys all signing autographs, and they're nearly 80 years old. I think Mike Love's probably 81 years old, but they still tour. They still go out,
and they still got the energy, and they still keep it. They put on a good show. But you know how they put on the show now? Like the Ramones. They play each one like real fast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they don't have any, they'll do that for the first half hour using mostly the musicians
Yes.
and that dynamic. And then they'll come out and do the slower ballads at the second half of the show.
And when they tour with John Stamos as the conga/other drummer.
Well, I wish they all could be California girls. But this has been another chapter of the pop culture magazine, Kensil Culture. I am the legendary Wid, and right here is the boss himself, Mr. John Kensil.
Hey, people, thanks for listening. Share it. Tell your friends. This is fun doing this. And look how colorful it is. Puppets and fish.
And hit that subscribe button and ring that bell and go like this.